Now, I'm going to be honest with you because I'm a little funny and sarcastic. If somebody treats me in a nasty way and somebody comes up to me and say, now remember, Nick, treat them the way you would want to be treated, I'm going to be like, wait, I'm following the golden rule. That must be the way they want to be treated, so I'm going to treat them. They're treating me nasty. That must be the way they want to be treated, so I'm going to No, that's not the way it works. So
wow, guys, can you believe it? We're already over 20 episodes into Nick Speaks, but here's the truth. I couldn't have done it alone. The amazing team at Goodnight Podcasting Solutions has been with me every step of the way, from those early strategy sessions all the way to editing, promotion, and even helping me land guests. They've made it so all I have to do is show up, record, and focus on delivering the message. Kyle at Goodnight Podcasting Solutions tailors everything to your unique needs and is so creative to give you what you're looking for. But one thing's for sure, he gives 110% to help you create an incredible podcast. So if you've ever thought about starting your own podcast, now's the time. Hit the link in the show notes, set up a strategy session with Kyle, and get ready to take your podcast to the next level. Trust me, you won't regret it.
hello, everybody. Welcome to this brand new episode of Nick Speaks, the podcast dedicated to the disabled community where we speak up, speak out, and speak loud about the issues that matter to the disabled the most. I'm your host, Nicholas Comstock. I am so glad that you joined me on this episode of Nick Speaks. You guys, before we get into today's episode, I'm just going to give a little bit of housekeeping notes. Remember, if you want to be on this podcast as a guest, you can email me at nickspeaksofficial@gmail.com. You can also use that same email address to invite me on your podcast, your YouTube show, your TV show, your radio show, your event that you would like me to come speak at. You can also use that same email address, nickspeaksofficial@gmail.com. Also, I want to let you know there is a website that will be coming soon that will have all this information. It'll have my YouTube, my podcast links, my link tree, where you can contact me. It'll have all that coming soon. Hopefully in a few short months. I've got to do some things to get some more photos taken for the website, but I will have a website up very, very soon. So be on the lookout for that. Also, you can listen to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and my YouTube channel at Nicholas Comstock. You can also type in Nick Speaks, Nick Speaks, and it'll pop up right there. And if you're watching on my YouTube channel, please be sure to hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers so I can monetize. As of this recording, I believe I'm at 567 or 568, somewhere around there. So I'm halfway there, and I need to get to 1,000 so I can monetize my content over on YouTube. So please help me out with that. Well, I believe that's all the Nick Speaks announcements that I have for you guys. So I want to get directly into today's episode. And I want to talk to the caregivers out there today. I want to give you, from my perspective, a refresher course. I want to charge the batteries of some longtime caregivers out there who may be feeling a little bit of burnout, who may be just ready to give up. And I want to talk to those caregivers I want to talk to those folks out there who are considering becoming a caregiver, or maybe you're brand new and you're considering giving up because this is not what you thought it was and you don't think you can handle it. I want to talk to you today, and I want to give you a challenge, and I really want to encourage your heart. And I'm going to talk pretty bluntly today. but know that it comes from a place of love, and know that Nicholas Comstock of Nick Speaks really loves caregivers out there. I love my staff. They do a tremendous job each and every day. And I love every person who really gets in there and does their job as a caregiver. And I will fight for you to the very end as an advocate for people with disabilities. So I want to talk to all my caregiver friends out there today. And this is what I want to say. I want to say to the new ones, first of all, that are really considering coming into this field, I want to encourage you to really sit down and think about why you're coming into this field of being a caregiver. Because if you're coming into it for a paycheck, you're here for the wrong reason. There's plenty of other jobs, trust me, that you can get and have a much bigger paycheck than caregiving will ever have. So if you're coming in it exclusively for a paycheck, you really should probably reconsider your options. If you're coming in it because you say, oh, Nick, I love people, I want to help people, that's wonderful, that's great. But I still don't think that, Nick, I want to help people, and that's the reason I'm coming into caregiving, is a good enough reason to go into caregiving. Because you can help people serving burgers at the McDonald's restaurant and feeding people. And I'm not knocking that. You really can. You can help people by making sure you give them the right transactions at a grocery store so they don't overpay for what they're getting. You can help people in sales. You can help people in just about every profession. But you can't always change someone's life in every profession. Caregiving is one of those things where you can absolutely change the course of somebody's life. I know that this is true because it's happened to me. My life has been changed because of dedicated caregivers who love their job and who love coming in and helping me live the best life that I can possibly live. And so if you're into changing somebody's life for the better, chances are caregiving is for you. And like I said, if you're in it just to help people, there are several jobs where you can help people on a daily basis, but there's not several jobs where you can change somebody's life each and every day you come into it, like a caregiver. When you're a caregiver, someone else's life is in your hands. You know, I was just talking about this with my primary caregiver the other day. He said, I'm stressed. I said, what are you stressed about? And he said, this job. And I said, well, what's stressful about the job? And he said, well, life, man. You've got someone else's life in your hands constantly. And I said, that's true. And I can't even imagine what that feeling would be like of having someone else's life in your hands 24/7, making sure that they have the best day, making sure that they're safe, making sure that they're emotionally secure. You said, Nick, is that really my job, making sure that people that I'm caring for are emotionally secure? In a lot of cases, I believe so, yes. It is a statement that I have kind of made a hallmark statement of mine. A caregiver is a friend when there are no friends to be found. And I really do believe that, because some of my caregivers have been some of my best friends in the worst time of my life. You say, well, you shouldn't be that way. I just go in and do what they tell me to do and sign the paperwork and leave. Look, if that's the kind of caregiver you are, you just go in and do your job and do the bare minimum. Do me a favor. Go home tonight after you listen to this episode, sit down and reevaluate why you're a caregiver. Because I guarantee you, it's not to come in, do the bare minimum, make sure the client is somewhat happy, and then go home and not think about your job until the next day. Your job as a caregiver, you're never done thinking about it. And truly, you're never done doing your job even when you're off the clock. If you're a caregiver that's worth your salt, you're always thinking about your client. What is the next best thing to make sure that they get their life goals accomplished? How do you keep them safe? How do you keep them healthy? How do you help them make the right decision? Now, your job is not to make the right decision for them as a caregiver. Your job is to teach them how to make the right decisions. Because in many ways, people with disabilities have never had to make their own decisions because they've always had a helicopter parent or a guardian making their own decisions for them, because for some reason, when we get the label of disability put on us, that means we automatically can't think for some reason. We don't know how to make decisions. And truthfully, when we have somebody make all of our decisions for us and then it's finally left up to us one day and we're just thrown out in deep water and we don't know what to do, we really don't know how to make decisions. We really do need to be taught how to do this. But listen to what I just said. We need to be taught how to do this. We don't need somebody else continuing to make what they think the best decision is for us. So yeah, you have to teach your clients how to make good decisions for themselves. Sometimes you have to teach them the difference between a bad decision and a good decision. Sometimes you have to teach your client that there is no good or bad decision. You just have to take the cards that are there and make the best out of a bad situation. And yes, I believe that is your job as a caregiver, is to help your client make the best life choices possible so that they can thrive and live the best life that they can possibly live. Because in many cases, like in my case, I was told I was never going to be able to move out, never be able to have a romantic relationship, never be able to manage my finances on my own. So my caregivers came in and said, Nick, yes, you can do this. And this is how you're going to be able to do it. And it's not going to be easy. That's another thing that you have to be honest with your clients about caregivers, is making the right decision is not always going to be easy, but it has to be done and you have the power to do it. I think a lot of caregivers sometimes are so focused on taking more power away from their clients instead of giving them back the power. Because I think a lot of caregivers feel, well, honestly, if they need me, then if they need me to help live everyday life, that means I have to make decisions for them and myself as well. No. You're there to be a guiding light. You're there to empower your clients and let them know of the rights that are available to them. You're not there to would be an overbearing helicopter parent. You're there to be the exact opposite. You're there to say, you got this. You can do this. You want to do this job? Okay. I don't know how you're going to do it right now, but we're going to sit down and figure it out. And we may have to create some loopholes to get it accomplished so you can have this job or have this item that you want to buy. We may have to look at saving some money, and how are you going to save this money? It is possible, but we can do it. Let's figure it out. For you caregivers that are out there and you're saying, I don't want to change someone's diaper for $10 an hour. Well, first of all, from my perspective, diaper should never be used. That term should never be used. It should always be brief or depends or attends or underwear. I'm more comfortable with the word brief. Some people may be comfortable with the word diaper. I can't imagine people who would be comfortable with that word. I'm not comfortable with it. But if that's all you're looking at, gee, I have to change somebody's dirty underwear every day. If that's all you're looking at, if that's what you're putting all of your eggs in, you're putting all of your eggs in this little basket, this little section of caregiving, then you really need to evaluate whether or not this job is for you. Because it's so much more than changing somebody's dirty underwear or dirty brief. It's so much more than cleaning up somebody's food after they eat. So much more than just passing someone's medication every day. Go in your job as a caregiver saying, I'm going to love them. I'm going to treat them like they were my own family. I'm going to treat them like I would want to be treated if I was in their position being cared for. And when I say go in there and treat them like family, if you treat your family like crap, or if your family treats you like crap, don't treat them like that. Treat them the way you would like your family to be treated. Treat them the way you would like your family to treat you. The golden rule: treat others the way you would want to be treated. Now, I'm going to be honest with you because I'm a little funny and sarcastic. If somebody treats me in a nasty way and somebody comes up to me and say, now remember, Nick, treat them the way you would want to be treated, I'm going to be like, wait, I'm following the golden rule. That must be the way they want to be treated, so I'm going to treat them. They're treating me nasty. That must be the way they want to be treated, so I'm going to No, that's not the way it works. So that's a humorous way to get out of it. But no, if you're really going to treat them like a good, loving family, treat your caregiver the way you treat your client, the way you would want your client to treat you if they were in your position. And caregivers do need better pay. All across the country, they do. I think here in Ohio, it's between $18 and $25 an hour is the caregiver rate, and maybe a little bit more as of this recording, but I do believe it's between $18 and $25 an hour. And that's far better than from where we were when I got here in 2015, when I got the state of Ohio. I think we were at maybe $10 an hour when I got in the state of Ohio, almost 10 years ago now. And I was on the front lines of giving caregivers better pay. So I know that the caregivers in Ohio are being much cared for much better than they were when I first got here in the state of Ohio. And that is thanks to Governor Mike DeWine and advocates like myself who got on the front lines and said, we need better care. We need better care. Therefore, we need better pay for our caregivers in order to get better care. But you know what? I say this often on my social media, and I believe this is the first time I'm going to say it here on Nick Speaks. I don't believe caregiving is a job. I believe caregiving is a client. Let me start over. I don't believe caregiving is a job. I believe caregiving is a calling. And when you are called to do this, when you are called to love somebody who possibly can't love you back, when you are called to do everything under the sun for somebody who can't say the words, thank you, I appreciate you, or maybe they refuse to because they've been hurt by caregivers. When you are called to do the dirty jobs, like clean somebody's dirty underwear because they've had a bowel movement, when you are called to do that, the money is a small fraction of what you are thinking about. You don't think about the money as much. What you think about is, how can I make money for my family but still do what I love? That's what you think about. You think about how you can do this job and still make a decent living for your family. If you really care about your caregivers, about your clients, that's what you think. And I understand that there are some families out there within the last few years that have had to, there are some caregivers out there that have had to leave their job as a caregiver because they just couldn't financially do it. I understand that. I'm not condemning you, and I appreciate the service that you gave to your clients. And I'm sure your clients will be forever indebted to you for what you've done for them and how you have improved their lives. I want to tell the new caregivers that caregiving is not a job where you can come sit on your butt for 8 hours, be on the phone, change a couple briefs, and oh, by the way, be on the phone while you're changing a couple briefs. That's not supposed to happen. Then go home and come back and do it the next day. That's not the way this is supposed to work. You're not supposed to put your client in a room with a TV, phone, and computer and say, okay, call me if you need anything. I'll be here on my phone. No. Engage your client. There are hundreds of clients like me. We don't have interaction really with our family. We don't have interaction with friends because we're so busy. So when you come to our home and when you are engaging with us, it's like we have somebody that wants to spend time with us. But when you show me as a client personally that you're not really interested in that, you're just interested in doing your 9-to-5 job and then going home, it makes my depression as a client worse. So what I tell my staff all the time, and look, not everybody's cut out for every location. If you go to a job and you say, listen, changing briefs is not my forte, okay, then I guess you have to ask yourself, why are you really here? Because I guarantee you, at some point as a caregiver, you're going to have to change a brief. You're going to be put in an uncomfortable situation one day, and you're going to have to decide, how are you going to handle that uncomfortable situation? Let me have you look at it this way. You think we want, as a client, you to wipe our butt? No, we don't want that. But we have no choice because we need help. We need to get our butt clean. We need to have a shower every day. We need to have our food prepared every day. We need to have our teeth brushed every day. We don't want to have someone else do that. We don't want someone else to see us at our most intimate moments. But we have no choice. So why should you be able to make the choice? I don't want to change somebody else's brief. If we don't get to decide that we don't want somebody to change our brief, if we don't have the opportunity to decide, you know what, I don't want a disability today, I don't want a caregiver today, why should you get that opportunity to tell your caregiving agency what job you will do and what job you won't? Now, I want to address something that a lot of new caregivers may feel. And I've said this on my TikTok before. And if you're not following me on my TikTok, make sure you do so at Nicholas Comstock. I believe it's there in my link tree. I've said this on my TikTok before, and I've had a lot of pushback towards it when I first said it. And that is, for the new caregivers, when you come in, your question may be, what if my client doesn't like me? What if my client's family doesn't like me? Well, let me reassure you, they probably won't like you. They don't want you there. And here's where a lot of people disagree with me. You, especially if you're with a family that's never had a caregiver outside of family in their life, you, to them, are an intruder. You're coming in their house. They think you're going to adjust everything about their schedule. People with disabilities are very routine oriented. We have to have things done at a certain time. Especially, I think it's a little bit more routinish if you're on the spectrum as autism. I'm not, but I've talked to other people who have autism, and I've had friends that have autism, and a lot of them that I talk to, they are very much into their routines, and if it's messed up, it messes up their whole world. So when you're coming in as a caregiver for the first time, know that your clients are not going to be able to, they're not going to like you. They're going to question everything you do, especially if you have a helicopter parent. Yes, those helicopter parents are going to come up to you and be like, you didn't fold my son's blanket right. You left the refrigerator door open, and you didn't put my ice trays back the right way when I had them. Yes, you're going to have parents be anal like that. But you have to know that way. This family is not used to having outside caregivers. I'm their first caregiver, and I barely know this job myself. So let me see what I can learn from them. And very kindly and very gently, maybe give some useful tips. And I'm not going to lie to you. There are some families out there that are complete assholes. Okay. There are some families out there that there's literally nothing that you can do to please them. You're going to run into those people as a caregiver. And you have to decide, do I want to change people's lives for the better? Or do I want to go into a 9-to-5 job where I'm making a ton of money, but I'm not making as much of an influence as I would in this position? That's the decision that you have to make as a new caregiver. And let me tell you, I think caregiving is one of the most rewarding jobs that somebody can take. No, it's not always fun. I've said this many times in speeches that I've given. You're going to have a client that loves you one day, and then the next day they're going to come throwing their food at you. But realize that maybe they've never been able to express themselves that way before, and maybe they feel comfortable Now, I'm not saying that if they're doing things that are harming you and they're doing things that are putting your life at risk, put up with that because you're a caregiver. No, if you're really being put in danger, talk to your supervisor about it and see what you can do to either fix the situation and make it better or see what you can do to get reassigned. I'm not in the business of getting caregivers unalived because their clients are violent. That's why we have what's known as individualized service plans, which that is very important as a caregiver, that every house that you go into, you read the individualized service plans. Now, a lot of them are going to drive you nuts because a lot of them repeat themselves over and over and over again. But it's very important that you read every part, especially if you're a new caregiver. It's very important that you read every part of those individualized service plans because it literally has the client's likes, dislikes, what makes them mad, what makes them angry, if they have any behaviorals. There's a whole separate thing for behavior plans. I don't have any of those, thank God, even though I get angry, but I think a lot of people get angry. I think a lot of people get hangry, so that's not a difficult behavior. But that's why it's important if you're a new caregiver to read the individualized service plans. And another thing is when your clients say, I love you, caregivers say it back. You say, Nick, but my boss doesn't want me to say that. My boss does. Is your boss going to hear you say I love you to your client? And if your boss doesn't want you to say I love you to your client, chances are you need to find another company because they're just in it to make money. Because I'm going to tell you, the words I love you from my caregiver to a client can change a client's life. I know because it's changed mine. A lot of these clients don't have a lot of interaction with the outside world, much less their family. And when somebody else who is tasked with doing everyday tasks with them, and then the caregiver says, I love you on top of that, the client knows they're not just here for a paycheck. They really do love me. And a lot of times, that's what a client like me is looking for. They're looking for love, acceptance, connection, community. They want to be a part of something. And a lot of times, these clients having caregivers, you are their first open door to the community. You are their first open door to someone maybe actually showing them love for a change. You are the first open door to giving them a real chance at life. So when your clients say, I love you, caregiver, say it back. I know companies have things with boundaries and things like that, and I'm not telling you to do anything that you could lose your job. But if saying I love you to a client who says it to you, who is all they're looking for is love, acceptance, connection, and community, if you lose your job over saying I love you to a client, then I would find another agency and take that client with you. And that's just my opinion. But don't be afraid to show your client love. Don't be afraid to receive your client's love. This job as a caregiver is not just going to cost you something. I believe it's going to cost you everything. And you have to be prepared. to give that. And if you're not, it's okay. This job is not for everybody. But just in case you are wondering, being a caregiver is not going to cost you something. It's going to cost you everything. And like I just said, you have to be ready. Give it. You can't just go to your job and give 50%. This is not a job you can do. You have to go to a job. You have to go to your client as a caregiver and be ready to give your life at a moment's notice. I know this may be hard for a lot of you to hear today, but it's really what's on my heart. And for those caregivers who are near burnout and you say, Nick, I've been doing this for 20 or 30 years. I don't know if I can keep going. My management is treating me crazy. They're treating me funny with my pay. They're not treating me well as an employee. What do I do? I will say, do what you need to do, but go as long as you can, because your clients need you. They need as much routine as they possibly can get. And if you can give them that, then give what you can, and then give the rest to God. But please, if you're thinking about giving up caregivers that have been doing this for 20 or 30 years, please go one more day. And if you haven't heard the word thank you from your boss, from your upper management, from your client, if you haven't heard the word thank you from them in a while or at all, let me be the first to say thank you for what you do as a caregiver. And I see you. I do. I see the caregiver that has worked 24-hour shift and has just been asked to work another one. And all they were able to do is go home and take a shower and come right back because they wanted to make sure that their clients were safe. I see you. I see the caregiver who picks up the slack of their other lazy caregivers, but they're lazy caregivers, the ones that get all the accolades, but you get nothing. I see you. Keep going. I hope this episode was an encouragement to caregivers out there today. If I have any caregivers that want to come on the show, please email me, nickspeaksofficial@gmail.com. And I really hope this was an eye-opening episode today. And caregivers, know that you have a friend in Nicholas Comstock. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Nick Speaks, the podcast dedicated to the disabled community, where we speak up, speak out, and speak loud about the issues that matter to the disabled the most. Until next time, see you soon. Bye-bye.